My lesson, I want just to actually bring to your attention something that is very crucial in as far as the testing for cations is concerned. You see, you might end up using sodium hydroxide, so tests for cations, or actually the positively charged particles. If you use sodium hydroxide, or also called caustic soda, you might end up actually adding a few drops. You can say add a few drops. Then you can form a white precipitate. If a white precipitate, so you're actually adding a few drops of sodium hydroxide to a suspected cation in a compound that you have been given, of course, first having been dissolved in water to form a solution. So you've been given a vessel. This vessel can be a beaker or a boiling tube or a test tube. They have placed here some solution that contains a particular cation. For example, let's even say calcium ions. And you really want to know which type of ions are present actually in this compound or in this solution. Then you'll actually take the sodium hydroxide and then add a few drops to that. A white precipitate gets formed. And a white precipitate gets formed, and unfortunately persists in excess. That means you are testing for cations, the positively charged particles, and you are adding sodium hydroxide or caustic soda. And as far as few drops are concerned, whatever you are suspecting to be having a particular type of cation, then you realize that a white precipitate gets formed on adding few drops, and the precipitate persists in excess sodium hydroxide. That will obviously give you barium ions, calcium ions, and magnesium ions. But how do you differentiate this? You see, you use what you call a flame test. A flame test. A flame test will tell you actually, because you have a suspected cation in a particular compound, you have added a few drops of sodium hydroxide, you have actually gotten a white precipitate that persists in excess sodium hydroxide. There's actually a possibility of having either the barium, the calcium, or the magnesium. But how do you actually exactly end up knowing which type of cation is present? You have to apply the flame test, such that the barium ions will actually burn with a green flame. So if you pick a small amount of that solid or solution and then burn using a nichrome wire in a non-luminous flame, then see a green flame, then that means barium ions are present. But if you can be able to see what you call the orange red or a brick red flame, that tells you the calcium ions are present. But if you see a bright blinding flame, you can have what you call bright blinding flame, or sometimes they refer to it as bright glaring flame. That tells you that is actually magnesium ions which are present. So there's a possibility of using sodium hydroxide to test the presence of a cation that's present in a compound in a particular solution given. If you add a few drops, you'll form a white precipitate, and if the precipitate persists, there's a higher possibility of having any of these three. So to distinguish between these and find which one is present in that solution, you have to use what you call a flame test. This burns with a green flame, calcium burns with an orange red or a brick red flame, then magnesium burns with a bright blinding flame or a bright glaring flame. That can tell you which cation is present in as far as that test is concerned.